Good morning, and hey now, PASW staff, clients, friends joining us on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. Yesterday we looked at the film scoring assignment for the Martin Scorsese film Raging Bull, the black and white boxing film that's that has that opera score. So I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. That'll be on Friday. We'll see the results. So let's go to Austria. Don't you think we should go to Vienna? I mean, it's been a while since we've been over there. Let's get over to Vienna, and as you can probably surmise, we're going to be looking at one of the most famous Austrian composers, beautiful composers that ever lived. And, when you think of somebody who's Paul McCartney, who's George Gershwin, Richard Rodgers, they're songwriters, right? Well, we're not only going to look at a composer, but we're going to look at somebody who wrote a ton of songs. Yep, people wrote songs back in the classical era. And we'll be looking at the very lovely and beautifully sensitive composer, Franz Schubert. Schubert's born 1797, and then he dies 1828. So another example, he dies at 31. So, oh my gosh. But for 31, the amount of music he wrote was just amazing. Let's look at the timeline so you know visually what we're talking about. Schubert's really important for bridging classical, Beethoven, Mozart. That's mostly classical, and bridging that to the Romantic era. Because, as we know, Romantic is 19th century, middle to late 19th century. Before that, it's Mozart and Beethoven. That's classical. Now, their music can be romantic, no doubt, but that's mostly historians say that that's the classical period. So there's classical elements, there's romantic elements in that classical music, but by the middle, with Wagner, Schubert, Tchaikovsky, it's for the most part very romantic classical music. So he's important for doing that, for bringing in classical and making it romantic. And his career was less than 20 years because he died young, but he produced over 600 songs. Overtures, masses, string quartets, quintets, octets, 20 piano sonatas, 50 choral works, a lot of sacred music, although he was agnostic, and wrote for the church. So we'll just be listening to some beautiful pieces of music today. I'll kind of sprinkle in some facts about his life, but for the most part, just a real genius. And his dad and brother taught him music at a very young age, but he soon passed them up. And he came from a family of 14 in Austria, and lived a life. He liked to party a little bit. He died young from syphilis, so that kind of tells you maybe he wasn't. He wrote during the day, but liked to kind of go out at night, and was had a big personality, even though he was very introverted and shy. And a lot of his music is that way. And if we're going to be talking about somebody, there's so many symphonies and unfinished symphony that he did. But if we look at we're going to kind of listen and look at his Lieder. Now, Lied is a German song. That's what Lied means. Lieder are German songs. So if you hear that, that's just the term. And he's one of the most famous composers to write Lieder. So, you could almost say like Paul McCartney is very famous for, writing Lieder. It's not the term we use now, but usually German song, that means for piano and voice. So a lot of it is just is basic songwriting that we use now, even in the 20th century. Voice, Burt Bacharach would write for Dionne Warwick. They would write piano and voice. So Schubert's doing that just hundreds of years earlier, but wrote over 1,000 pieces of music, and idolized Beethoven. Was just, loved him so much, wanted to be buried next to him, and he was, actually. Beethoven died a year before Schubert, and but he ended up being buried next to him, and it's not known if they ever met. I think they were supposed to meet, but he might have gotten scared, Schubert. I'm not sure, but he did study. Schubert did study with Salieri, who is a real composer and great one in his own right. But as we've looked at in the movie Amadeus, Salieri is the villain, if you will. Mozart he's the one that kills Mozart. We all know that that's fictional, but he in real life, Salieri was a great composer. So Schubert studied with him. So although he liked to party, he wasn't a show-off, really. He wrote simple music, but clever, in a very clever way. And he would put it in the drawer, and just put it away and go right on to the next song. He was so prolific that he would literally sleep with his spectacles on, just in case he had to get up and hear something and write it down at night. And even towards the end of his life, he thought of taking composition lessons, although he was prolific in writing a lot, because he still didn't think he was good enough. He had that insecurity about him, that, a little bit of insecurity is good. Overconfidence means usually you're proving something, trying to prove something. A little bit of nervousness, anxiety, and insecurity is probably a good thing, but not, So he started getting sick kind of in his late 20s and early 30s, and it's really too bad, because to write the amount of music that he did in that amount of time, he just said, as soon as he was done with one piece, he would just put it in the drawer, go right back to the next piece. As you can hear, just the music is just so, it's just so beautiful. And you know what? It's so nice being with you, enjoying listening to you and sharing this kind of music. And we don't have to get in depth of, sometimes of, the chords or the theory of it. There's things that we could do to do that, but just to enjoy this music with you is very special, at least for me. So, Franz Schubert, and yes, the Ave Maria is a song that probably all of you guys know, played all the time. One of the most gorgeous pieces, and I sang a little bit of his music when I was in college. I had to do men's choir, and I hated every second of it. It was Monday and Wednesdays from 4 to 6, 4 hours a week for 2 years. It was a requirement. Composers had to do it. And I really dreaded it, because I was so busy, and it seemed like such a waste of time to spend 4 hours a week. There were so many other things to do, but I ended up singing a lot of great material and finding a lot of great vocal music that I never would have found, including two Schubert leader that I listen to all the time, and I'm so thankful, that I was in that and found those pieces. I would have never heard those pieces, and some of those pieces have changed my life, and I listen to almost every week or every month almost. It's just so that maybe that goes to show you, as much as we hate something, there is a reason for it to there's usually something good can be found from something like that. Yes, I didn't want to go to men's choir, but wow, I got to unearth a piece by Schubert that I would have never known existed, that has brought me so much joy in many personal, private moments in my life. In particular, one coming back from Paris on the plane with my brother. And that's a personal story that I won't go into, but I remember hearing that leader, or that lead, this one lead in particular, and just thinking it was so beautiful, and it really is. So I hope you enjoyed Schubert. Great, great composer. We could do 1,000 classes on it. And we will. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, have a great rest of the day. Love you. Bye.